Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Looking at game 2 of this NBA Finals series. Nice little game 1 there, 4-3, but portioned those units correctly. So we did come up about 1.5 units there after game 1 on Thursday night. I've got 5 bets here for you to kick things off for game 2 on Sunday. Also, going to be coming back to you guys with that live stream, 5 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. Get about 3 hours ahead of that game so we can find a few more bets together. I'll probably have a couple guests like we did last time to break down this stuff. I want to look real quickly at how we did in game 1. Specifically, did we project those matchups and sort of the outcome of the strategies that we thought each team would deploy correctly? For the most part, we did. So let's jump right into game 2. Couple of key takeaways from game 1, just to kind of see how we did in terms of projecting what I thought was going to happen in the sort of coaching battle between these two teams. First and most notably, I would say Daniel Gafford doesn't appear quite made for this series. We saw his minutes decline sharply when he played against this Boston team during the regular season. Honestly, whether he was on the Wizards or on this Dallas squad, he wasn't really getting very many minutes at any point in the last 4 or 5 games that he's taken on Boston. Clear reasons for that. Not very switchable against the other dudes. Got a bet for Gafford in here we'll talk about in one sec. Also had Tatum guarding those centers, so the rebounds continue to be a good look for him, and it's a pretty good way to ensure that Luka's not going to be able to hunt guys like Kristaps or Al Horford, who would be a lot bigger of a mismatch for him if they were guarding the roll man, which is usually Gafford or Lively. But because Gafford and Lively are being guarded by Tatum, a lot that we can take away from that, including Tatum's boards, which we'll take a look at here in one sec as well. The other takeaway here, Boston defense is playing pretty much straight up, really not seeing too much doubling or blitzing of Luka or Kyrie when both of them are on ball playing in that pick and roll game that they like to play on Dallas. So got to keep an eye on the fact that those spot up shooters are not going to be as open as they were in other series for Dallas. And the fourth takeaway here that I really wanted to make clear, similar to that Gafford one, that basically the bigs don't have a place in this series. Probably both Lively and Gafford struggled mightily in game 1. I expect a bit of a bounce back from Lively, who should still be seeing minutes out there, but they certainly can't go double big, and they really need to consider how much Maxi Kleber is playing as a much better defensive switching matchup against Tatum and Brown and company. So let's dive into some of these bets, though. Going back to the well with the Luka same game parlay. We lose a little bit of juice here, but we still get plus 105 on FanDuel for Luka to get 30 points, 8 boards, and 3 threes made at least in this one. This is something that he just started to do very consistently as soon as he got healthy, which we kind of determined was the end of that OKC series when he started to look like he was a little bit less hobbled and back into true form for Luka Doncic, right? If you look at the points, 30 plus in 6 of the last 8 games. The other 2 had 29 and 28. So this is still happening super consistently. The boards, he's actually had 10 plus in 9 of his last 11 games. That's around when we're saying he started to look a lot more like himself. It was about 10, 11 games ago in the OKC series when we stopped hearing about the knee injury that he was still sustaining. And then the same thing for the threes. Like, he's going to keep taking at least 10 threes. He took 12 in this last game. So the volume is going to be there above 10 to 12 at least. You'd like him to hit 30% of these threes. He's already at about a 37.5%, 38% clip right now in the last 11 games, where he's been hitting this number very consistently. All of the last 8 games, especially when he really started to show that he can kind of pivot a little bit more on that right foot, hit that step back that is unblockable, regardless of the size of the person who's guarding him. And so we're going to continue to take him to hit those threes as well. All 3 of these things together gets us plus 105. Really liking this bet pretty much every game moving forward, as long as we get around even money or better. I mentioned Tatum and his rebound, so we're going to go back to that here. Something we haven't played in a couple games, but there's really no reason not to like it. And what's interesting is that Kristaps being back seems to help Jason Tatum rebounds. If you look at the with and without numbers with Kristaps, he actually gets more boards when Kristaps is out there. Same concept with Al Horford, actually. When Al is out there with Jason Tatum, still gets more boards than when he's out there by himself, in part because those guys are boxing out dudes a little bit bigger than he is, which leaves him a lot more open and free to get those boards. So the over 9.5 is minus 104 on Caesars right now. Actually opened at plus money for game 2, which is interesting, but still like it right below even money for him to get 10 rebounds in this one. He's gotten 10 in 12 of 15 playoff games. Really consider that. The really hilarious part that actually does not help this bet, but I wanted to bring up anyway because I thought it was wild, is that in the 3 games he went under, all of those were the game 2s of the previous 3 series, where this team ended up doing pretty poorly. The other team shot really well. They lost 2 of those other game 2s in the first 2 series, one against Indiana by coming back and pulling that one out, right, against the Pacers there in game 2 at home, once they didn't have Tyrese Halliburton either. But either way, like, the fact is that he's getting 72% of the rebound chances into his lap, right? He's pulling those down. Other players on the squad have a much higher deferred rebound chance, clearly indicating that Tatum, with his super low deferred rebound chances, meaning he's not deferring to other teammates. When there's an opportunity for him to get the board, he's pulling it in, and his other teammates are letting him do so because they want him to have the ball to start the fast break, much more so than they want other guys. That's been clear. Similar concept to Luka rebounds as well, which we hit last game. So let's take Tatum to get 10 boards here in game 2. Speaking of Luka, I love this head-to-head rebound bet with he and Jason Tatum that's available on DraftKings. However, I'm not going to take either of them to get more or less rebounds than the other one. I'm going to combine them. You can take an over on their combined rebounds in that same location on DraftKings under head-to-head player props. You can find over 18.5 combined boards for these two guys. Minus 125. Took it last game as well as minus 105, lost the juice because they both combined for 21 rebounds in game 1. So I think the books are a little bit aware that they're going to be doing well on the boards here, but they keep it low because they both sort of barely climbed over. We had Jason Tatum with 11, Luka with 10 boards. But we're going to go right back to it. Looking a little bit more at Luka as well here, since we just kind of went over Tatum. He's got 9.7 boards per game, 14 rebound chances that he's pulling those down on, right? But if you look at the last 8 games since he got healthy, or even 10 or 11 games since he got healthy, he's going over this number very consistently. Only twice now in the last 11 games that he's failed to get this number. And just like Tatum, very high rebound chance success rate because he's getting those easy boards, playing a little bit closer to the baseline, and his teammates, as like Jason Tatum's, are deferring to him and letting him get those rebounds rather than trying to pull them down themselves. So we'd love Luka to keep getting his boards as well. Combining them together, we don't even need both of them to get their rebounds. If one of them gets 11 or 12, other guy can get 8, right? Even 7 boards to get them to 19. I don't think we're going to see this at 18.5 after this game 2 because I expect them both to continue getting rebounds throughout the rest of this series. Had to go back to Kyrie, man. I mean, last game was as bad of a shooting game as you're going to see him have, especially when you consider how open he was on a number of these shots. So over 22.5 points for Kyrie, get that at minus 112 on DraftKings, which is a really good number, really good edge to the over here for Kyrie with the amount that he's been scoring and shooting, especially in these playoff games, right? If you look at the point god here, and his comeback rate, right? When he doesn't get this number, when he doesn't hit 22 or 23 points in this playoffs, he comes right back and does it later, right? So you look at the last 7 games for him, his point totals were 22, 30, 20, 33, 16, 36, and 12. Doesn't really take a mathematician here to see the pattern that has formed, especially in these last 7 games. Bad game, good game. One of the more noticeable things for him, too, after he comes back from a bad game, he hits 3.3 threes in all of the games following less than 20 points for Kyrie in the playoffs. That's a really good average for him. If he's hitting 3 threes in this game, probably means he's able to also be aggressive and get to the rim to get his points, where you don't really see Boston doubling down on Kyrie or Luka, especially when they're both on the floor together. And they both are going to continue to play over 40 minutes, probably 42 to 44 is a good projection, unless they're in an even bigger hole and they need both of them on the floor to come back. You're only going to see them playing together more, which disallows Boston from being able to double down on either of those guys. They seem to be pretty afraid of having either of them open or against an imbalanced defense. So we're going to bank on Kyrie continuing to get some open looks. He was 4 for 11 on uncontested shots in this last game. Much more capable of getting like 6 to 7 of those to go in when he barely has anybody standing around him. He was also 2 for 8 in contested shots, which is also a very low percentage for him. I mean, that's how you get to 6 for 19 from the field. And the 0 for 5 from 3 is another thing that as soon as he sees one go in, I think he's probably good for 3 threes in this game. So with all that in mind, going to take him to get over 22.5. Might have a ladder play or an alt line as well for him. I'll put that probably more likely in the docket there for the live stream here on Sunday. We'll take a look at that. I feel pretty confident that if there's some good numbers for him to get 30 points, we'll probably be looking at that. Closing it out here with Daniel Gafford, who was mentioned here at the top of the show because not really his series. So we're going to go under 13.5 PRA for Gafford, minus 109 on Caesars for a full unit. He actually did get an assist in this last game, but that does not scare me from adding the assist to this prop because at PR, it's the points and rebounds combined is 12.5, the PRA 13.5. He's only gotten one assist in like 5 of these playoff games out of all of the basically 20 that this team has played so far. So I don't think the assist is going to help him get there. Really like to add that to it. When we say he's not made for this series, it's predominantly on defense. He had a minus 47 net rating in game 1. That is in large part due to his inability to play defense. 147 defensive rating for Gafford and this team when Gafford was playing on the floor. He just gets run right out off of it, man. Like once you put him in any kind of screen and roll action and he gets hunted and left on a guy like Tatum or Brown or whomever, he just gets cooked. It's just that simple. He does not have the feet dexterity, if you will, to really keep those guys in front of him. The minutes for him have been down anytime he's playing this team on any team. Like I mentioned, whether he's on Washington or on this Dallas squad, he's only at 9 minutes a game in the last 4 that he's played Boston. One of those was as a member of the Wizards this season, right? And he only saw about 12 minutes in that game. Now he's got Maxi Kleber coming in and rivaling him for some of those big minutes, and that has led to his minutes dropping as well. He only saw 14 or so minutes in this first game, 9 in the first half before it became very clear. Like I said, that minus 47 net rating was staring Jay Kidd and his coaching staff in the face going, how do we keep Gafford on the floor? Ended up not starting the third quarter, only played a few minutes in there. We even saw Lively get 5 fouls in the third quarter alone. Lively got 5 personal fouls, and they still kept him on the floor in the hopes that they weren't going to have to play Daniel Gafford, right? It was just not a dude that they felt comfortable leaving out there. When Maxi Kleber was in there for his 18 minutes, which ate right into Daniel Gafford's minutes, it meant that Maxi is able to guard Tatum and Brown a lot better than Gafford. Not well, necessarily. They still kind of cooked him a little bit, but not nearly as bad as they were working over Gafford in this game. So I continue to believe that his minutes will stay at about 15. He didn't play at all in the fourth quarter, which he may play a couple more minutes in the fourth quarter of this game if it's a closer game and not a total blowout. But even if it's close, they made clear that he wasn't really somebody they saw as helping them on the floor. So with the minutes continuing to fall for Gafford and playing out of position a ton without the ability to get rebounds very often, we're going to take him to go under 14 points, rebounds, and assists combined in game 2. Before we get out of here, wanted to remind you guys quickly about outlier.bet. That is the main platform here that we are using on the live streams now every day moving forward. So you do definitely want to check that out. You get a risk-free 7-day trial if you want to test it out for yourself and see if you like Outlier. Jump in the description of the video. Got the link in there so you can just go right to it using my specific code and link that is in there. No code needed. The link will take you right to the spot to get that risk-free 7-day trial for Outlier. So I want to remind you guys about that. Also, the Discord, got that live and running, popping off. Got WNBA going crazy right now, too. A lot of people in there that are throwing some really good looks. We are attacking all these W games from all angles. Same with the finals. As long as we got NBA left, we're going to keep going forward with that as well in the Discord. So it's free right now. A lot of smart bettors in there helping everybody out, including myself. So I definitely recommend jumping in there. Link in the description of the video for that as well. I'll be back on Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, rather. We're going to be going live about 3 hours beforehand. Probably get Prop Bomb and Daft back on there. Found some really good winners with you guys in the live stream before this last game. So pumped to get back into it with you. And until I see you then, happy betting.